So with the recent events, I wanted to speak about, how to put these all into words, all these police shootings and all the injustices that the black community has experienced, throughout history. So the things I'll be covering today are collective trauma and being trauma informed. So, with all the things that that have continued to happen like throughout our lived history, which is going to date back from slavery through the present. When it comes to collective trauma is basically a phenomenon that consistently happens to one group. And what a phenomenon is going to be is that there's a specific instances that constantly happen to one group, and that and as a result, that group basically experiences a lot of stress in relation to the issue. And of course, with collective trauma, what that is that we feel what is happening to people that look like us. That's literally what it is. And just putting this into words, because this is not in any way trying to justify our feelings to other people. I'm just doing this for us, so we're able to put this into words, because it is pretty stressful. So with collective trauma, all the events that have historically happened, so, starting from with slavery was a collective trauma event. And that basically was ingrained in our psyche, from a genetic perspective. And when I say genetic, not to mean that we are traumatic people, but we've just had traumatic events happen to us throughout history. So the first event's going to be, of course, slavery. And then after slavery ended, of course, we had a lot of the Jim Crow laws happen, and all of the lynchings. That was a collective trauma event, because it was happening to us en masse. It was not in any way happening to just one individual. It was happening to thousands of people. Thousands of people were being lynched at a time. And of course, millions of us lived under Jim Crow segregation within the South. And that was definitely a collective trauma event that happened in the past. And other collective trauma events in the past that have happened are black successful towns being burnt down to the ground, even though they wanted us to be separate but equal. Those towns were burnt down to the ground, and that did not just happen to Tulsa, Oklahoma. Just look that up. Look, So I don't want to tell you look up this history, but that did not just happen in Tulsa, Oklahoma. That happened to multiple successful black towns, to where we weren't given opportunity within white spaces. So as a result, we just decided to go and create our own. But once again, what happened there was a collective trauma event. Now, during the civil rights movement, though the civil rights movement did produce a positive outcome for us, that the lead up to that was a collective trauma event, because people were being killed and murdered just for fighting for their rights. And once again, this was not happening on a scale to where it was just like happening to one person or at all. This was happening at a mass scale. We try to go and vote. There were repercussions with what happened to that. And then with moving into from the 60s into the 70s, or I would say from the 70s through the 80s. Of course, we had a lot of the war on drugs, which basically decimated communities of color. That was also a collective trauma event. And then as a result of the war on drugs, our current relationship with the police, is it just being around the police is a collective trauma event. And people always want to ask, why are black people or why are other people of color uncomfortable with the police? Because police were literally created to police what spaces black people and other people of color can go into. So, you know, so I mean, I would say, once again, this is not justification for us having to justify our feelings for people, but I'm just putting it into words for us because we're not given the skills and resources to really focus on to really try to see like why are we feeling this way, because I mean, mental health is a whole nother thing that I'll be covering, but I just wanted to speak about that too. From the 70s through the 90s, and I would say through present day now, a collective trauma event that's currently happening is the murder of black men and black people and other people of color, and then also people that are mentally ill. That is a collective trauma event. These are not instances to where they're one-offs. These are instances to where people to where it's happening en masse, and it's and with collective trauma, there's also generational trauma. For a lot of for a good amount of marginalized communities and people of color, the wound is never able to heal because our concerns are not being listened to, from people that are policymakers. This ranges from the Republican Party, then also some in the Democratic Party who claim to be, allies of us, but they're not implementing policies that'll have a positive impact on our communities. So you know, with looking at that, and in general, with our interactions with the police, focusing on that specifically, that is a system that was built all the way back from slavery, with slave drivers and watchers watching people escape from slavery, all the way through present. Is that our relationship with people that are supposed to protect and serve us was not built to protect and serve us. It was built to police us. It was built to control how we react. It was built to squash dissent. That's literally what it was built for. So with the police specifically, I feel that whatever feelings that any of us are feeling, they're valid, and we don't need to explain those feelings to people. I'm just here to just like try to put this all into words, because I know it's pretty stressful looking at the news, constantly seeing a black person, being killed and murdered by the police, for absolutely no reason at all. And murder. There's no reason to murder in general anybody, regardless of whether or not they have a criminal history or anything. We like that really just shouldn't happen. Um, and then with moving into being trauma informed, collective trauma is going to be from past, present to from the past through present, now. With being trauma informed is us basically bearing witness to all of the things that are happening present day. There's actually been studies on this to where, when a shooting happens within the black community, the stress of the black community spikes. When the shootings happen within the black community, reporting reporting actual crimes actually go down. The closer you are to the shooting, the reporting of crime does go down. And it's not just going to be at a local level. Granted, all the some of the things have happened either here in South Central Los Angeles, or they've happened all the way on the East Coast. It really doesn't matter. We are bearing witness to the atrocities that are happening to our community. So that's why this is happening, because we're bearing witness. And of course, back then, like, how we found things out was through newspaper, was through word of mouth. Now with social media and mass media, we're finding we are learning about these things instantly. And once again, this goes back to collective trauma. These things are happening at a mass scale, and being trauma informed doesn't necessarily mean that you have to experience that. But if you're constantly, without even trying, if you're constantly being exposed to that trauma, then that does impact your mental health. That does impact how we walk through life. That does, impact, how we see, opportunities. That does impact the entire community in different ways, because black people are not a monolith. Not trying to say that all black people feel the same way when these events happen. However, just putting into words, that's literally, what being, what collective trauma and being trauma informed is that, we're constantly exposed to this. And, for me, sometimes I take a break from it because for us, it's nothing new, unfortunately, with all the things that have happened. This is not anything new. And, these constant themes keep happening throughout our history, ranging back from slavery and lynchings and, getting killed through the, through the civil rights movement and being assaulted through present day and not being treated like a full citizen within your own country. You know, I, it's just, a pretty stressful situation. So of course the conversation doesn't stop here, but just wanted to put those thoughts out there and just, put this all into words, not for all of us, but providing, insights on, just trying to put our feelings into words. And of course, this is pretty general. I don't speak for the entire Black community. However, I've done, I don't need to study this, but of course, I've read a lot about this before, and I've put a lot of thought into this, and just wanted to share this with everybody. I'm looking forward to having more discussions about this, and just feel free to drop comments in the section below, and tell me what your interpretation of all these events are. And there's no right or wrong way, and I'm happy to learn any of your stories. And this goes beyond the Black community as well. If there are any, if you're in a community that's been historically marginalized, or if you just start realizing, oh my God, we are historically marginalized, I welcome your comments as well. And because we have to be here to support each other, and just know that unfortunately this is something that we are in it together. And we're gonna uplift ourselves, and like we're gonna try to get through this, and hopefully our policymakers actually start doing action rather than just giving us thoughts and prayers, which is not helpful at all. And that's a whole nother topic, to where within the society, they don't value Black lives. They really don't. And then also they don't value non-white lives. And when I say they don't value non-white lives, I don't mean like, oh my God, all white people are bad. I'm just saying in general, this is a society built on white supremacy. So therefore, when we ask for, the resources that we need, we don't get it because people don't experience it. So there's enough of that for today. Just wanted to put that out there, and, just feel free to drop your comments below.